Hello and welcome to the second episode of the Fight Smart series. This is my first take on a fight analysis with a voiceover, so please tell me how you liked it in the comments. The first fighter is Rafał Kramek from ARMA Poland. For his and his opponent's longer profiles, see the article linked in the description. As you can see, his main strengths are good Nachschlagen in both offensive and defensive settings, and excellent balance. On the downside, he is short, which makes landing a foreschlag problematic. However, Rafał has been working hard to improve his first strike over the last year or so. He polished his technique as well as significantly raised his overall physical preparation. He also benefited from sparrings with his taller and larger clubmate Jakub Milczarek and frequent competitions. And the last tournament left no doubts, it paid off well. Admittedly, Nachschlag remains his main weapon, but foreschlag, especially with the thrust, has been successfully implemented into his repertoire. What's also impressive is the confidence with which Rafał handles much taller and heavier opponents. He doesn't avoid, more, he actively seeks grappling with them and with good results. The main factor behind his efficiency there seems to be his good balance. Note how he can use his small frame to stop a full-blown overhaul from high foam tag. Being a dynamic and confident fencer allows him to surprise many opponents, but he still has to develop a richer repertoire and a bit more cunning, since more experienced fencers tend to read and exploit the pattern in his game. These fragments from his fight in the semi-finals against Łukasz Dąbrowski show what I mean. The last major problem Rafał has he shares with most short fencers, that is, sometimes he steps in the range of his opponent a bit earlier than expected. Like here, or here. The second fighter is Maciej Kwiek, also from ARMA Poland, who is among the most versatile and technical historical fencers in Poland. He is also 20 cm taller than Rafał and known for his thundering foreschlagen, which makes for an interesting matchup in this fight. And when I say thundering foreschlagen, I mean it. His balance is also outstanding, especially given his very dynamic maneuvering and frequent explosive attacks. Combined with some well-trained wrestling moves, it makes Maciej a dangerous opponent to clinch with. On the downside, his Nachschlagen or feints are not as impressive, and Maciej rather rarely scores during longer exchanges. Also, like many tall fencers, when not in foam tag, he tends to keep his sword low in Pflug or Albert-like positions, which together with his height makes covering the upper openings his weak spot. Interestingly, during the last tournament he lost the semi-final against Konrad Kramasz, who broke Maciej's game with deep dives for the legs, avoiding his initial high thrusts. Having both lost their semi-finals, Rafał and Maciej met in the bronze fight during the Black Horns Cup in Poznań in Poland. In the first exchange they did not spend much time sensing each other, which heralded a very dynamic and aggressive fight. Maciej quickly tested Rafał's defense with a confident foreschlag, but Rafał was ready with his parry and an umschlagen. In the next exchange, Rafał clearly expected Maciej to assume a parry and use a feint or other compound action. So as soon as Maciej started his foreschlag, Rafał counterattacked with a thrust. This brought them to grappling, where both exhibited good balance and structure, but Maciej used his better wrestling game to literally disarm Rafał. However, apparently the judges decided to award Rafał with a point for his cutting at the hands from below in the beginning of the clinch. Beaten twice by Kramek's defense, Maciej Kwiek slows down a little and tries to prepare the next attack better. Kramek, on the other hand, waits patiently and builds up gentle pressure. Note how he constantly breaks the measure in a way that forces Kwiek to either attack or step back. Such approach can be very effective if a fencer trusts his own defense. Should the opponent neither attack nor retreat, the pressing fencer, even if short, will simply get close enough to land a direct foreschlag. This is an important lesson for shorter fighters. You can't avoid getting to taller opponent's foreschlag zone before reaching yours, so you need to work out your defense not statically, but during closing in for your own attack. Encouraged by his success, Kramek decided to try to surprise Kwiek with a sudden foreschlag. He chose the moment decently, as Kwiek was moving forward, but launched the attack from too far away to land a direct thrust. Expecting a typical sideways parry, Kramek planned to follow his thrust with a strike to the other side, but Kwiek parried high and immediately riposted with the point landing a stop thrust. In this case, had Kramek decided to precede the attack with gathering information about Kwiek's defensive patterns, he would have probably seen that the thrust-umschlagen combo may be too risky. In the next exchange, Kramek switches back to his defensive mode and provokes with stepping in and out. Simultaneously, Kwiek seems a bit unhinged, perhaps by the fact that the audience didn't see his stop thrust and cheered for Kramek. In result, he fails to see through the provocation and not only launches the attack when Kramek was well prepared, but also hesitates long before striking his Nachschlag, which allows Kramek to land his favorite Umschlagen. Learning the lessons, Kwiek still wants to score with a foreschlag, but changes his typical two-handed thrust for a one-handed version. This gives him extra reach and also makes the initial phase of the offensive move look unfamiliar to Kramek, who is taken by surprise and receives a thrust to the face. Next, both fighters stick to their tactical principles. Kramek provokes and waits, and Kwiek is searching for a good moment to launch his thrust. But this time Kwiek is more careful and probably plans to catch Kramek during a forward movement to make his defense more difficult. However, Kramek makes a very smart move. He steps in with a tentative thrust, which gives Kwiek the incentive he was looking for. Then, as Kwiek is exploding with his much-awaited attack, Kramek changes the unfinished thrust into a parry, followed by an immediate riposte to the arm. He then receives an afterblow to the head, but the judges decided it was too late to count. The final exchange highlights the general problem with Kwiek's attacks that showed through the whole tournament. He often started them in suboptimal moments. In this case, he preceded the attack with a preparatory step, to which Kramek responded with a cautious retreat. Ignoring that, Kwiek launched a compound attack, a pre-planned feint that didn't take into account Kramek's reaction. In result, his attack failed to pass around Kramek's parry and was long enough to open Kwiek up for a quick riposte. If you would like to get a more elaborate summary of the tactical takeaways offered by this interesting fight, click the link to the article given in the description. And as always, don't hesitate to comment, like and share. All feedback is welcome, just as well as any support you may like to give as a patron. So, thanks for watching, and now go and give your HEMA some practice. See ya!